back at RSAC 2025 in San Francisco. This is our last segment. My name is Christophe Bertrand, Principal Analyst with theCUBE Research, and I am joined for the last segment, last but not least. Guess who he is based on the shirt? Eric Herzog from Infinidat, CMO of Infinidat. Zog in store, is in store.
Christophe, thank you. Love being on theCUBE, been doing it for years, and thank you again for inviting us.
Well, so great to have you, Eric, and well, you've been in the industry for many years. You've seen a lot of things through the years, and I have to say, RSAC, and now we see storage companies, we see backup and recovery vendors. Do we have a cyber resiliency category that has finally manifested itself here?
Well, I think what's really happened is on the security side, when you look at the corporate strategies, it's been edge, server, network. And then we realized that 90% of the company's data is sitting on their enterprise storage, so, especially for the, let's say, the global Fortune 2000. So they've kind of left storage out. So all of the backup data protection vendors have integrated. Several of the primary storage vendors, such as we have at Infinidat with our InfiniSafe, have integrated cyber resilience and cyber recovery directly into storage systems. So now, whether it be the backup side or the primary storage side, storage can be part of a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy and fits in now, so you're not leaving the front door wide open when you go on vacation and say, come steal my stuff. And quite honestly, with 90% of the data sitting on enterprise storage, when the CISOs or the CIOs or CTOs would leave the storage out, that's kind of what they were doing, and now that you see that here at RSA, that's why you see so many vendors that have a storage genealogy, a storage history, showing up now with cyber resiliency and cyber recovery technology.
Right, so it's really changing the game for a lot of the traditional cyber security professionals. They lived in a world of detection and endpoints and network security, et cetera, right? And now all of a sudden, you see this sort of IT infrastructure, data infrastructure, come up and become part of the conversation, and sometimes, well, it's a little too late when you've had this attack and you're calling up your friends who have the backups in the organization, and well, they can't really recover for X, Y, or Z reason. So what do you think is happening for the professionals who are here today? Are they evolving? Is their job changing? Is their organizational structure changing because of what you've just described?
Well, I think there's two possibilities here. One is if you integrate it automatically. So for example, there are some vendors where when a SIEM app, a SOAR app, or their SOC sees a cyber attack, it'll start kicking actions off through an API, no phone call or anything, right on the storage right away, trying to reduce that threat window. So as that continues, it's either A, the CISO understands that it needs to be incorporated and works with the infrastructure executives to make sure that the storage has that capability. So I think that is really an educational process. Right now a lot of the security people that came by the booth didn't know, or they would say, oh, well, that's great, I'll have to turn you on to the storage guys. A few said, oh yes, our CISO's all over this, let's set up a meeting, give me your email and we'll set up a meeting after the show. So I think it is evolving, but right, I'd say storage still is on the outside. However, it's starting to get better recognition at the CISO level, the CIO level, the CTO that, oh, wait a second, I haven't been including storage for the last 20 years. That's probably not a good idea anymore.
Right, I think it's very interesting to see this, and I believe we'll see the next wave will be sort of the IoT, type of devices, sort of still part of the infrastructure. So we'll see what happens. That's kind of my prediction. More importantly, it seems to me that this change in the nature of the conversation is forcing a total change in how you measure and how you sort of put metrics around traditional recoverability, right? Which typically will happen from backup recovery software working with the storage the infrastructure, or from the storage system itself directly. Lots of options there depending on how you've set it up. But do you think we've seen the end of the traditional 3-2-1 strategy for how many copies you have, how you back up, how you recover? Are we in a new era?
Well, I think this is all about the next generation of data protection. And that next generation of data protection has a huge dose of cyber injected into it, which is not the traditional way, right? Grandfather, father, son, as you said, the old way, which we both know well from the old days. But now that's anything you do, even if you're still going to do grandfather, father, son, Where's the cyber angle? Are you scanning those backup data sets? And on primary storage, right, completely separate from the traditional data protection model is, well, wait a second, I can take simultaneous snapshots with no performance on primary storage at all. So why don't I then scan those? And I could do that once a week, twice a week, and if you have the right software that can scan not just the metadata information looking for anomalous pattern detection, but much deeper, if you will, almost cracking open the files and taking a look at everything, looking at something like 200 or 250 different parameters, leveraging ML technology so it can learn that, wow, what's going on that storage array seems to be like the Herzog malware attack that everybody heard about, or the Christophe ransomware attack. So if it can learn like that, and that is where the technology is today, so instead of just being data protection thinking backup, because that is what most people think, is now you're protecting the data both on the backup side and on the primary side, scanning it, and in fact, if you do it right, not only are the SIEM and the SOAR and the SOC the early warning detection, you could actually see it on the storage side if you're doing the scanning properly, and then through an API send a note to the SOAR or the SIEM or to the SOC saying, hey, the storage is seeing an issue here, we need to be on this. And that really does change it from traditional data protection, which is pretty much a backup play as we know from our past.
Right, so I think what's important here is, and you've said it multiple times, APIs, you've mentioned other parts of the infrastructure that a few years ago you would never have mentioned, whether in storage or backup and recovery. So I think the big play here is how many APIs can you build, what type of partnerships do you have? So looking at the exhibit hall, I think it's mind-boggling how many vendors there are, all participating in this big ecosystem that clearly is starting to combine and merge because of the type of issues we have to fix now. What's your take on the best strategy from an ecosystem standpoint coming from the storage side? What are you looking for? What are the characteristics of those partners you're looking for? What capabilities? Do you see potentially in time some consolidation, you know, how products become features over time? What's your take on this? Because I think it's very confusing for end users. Should they invest in this company or that company when maybe they're going to be not so compatible with the other part of the stack?
Well, I think the key thing is you've got to do it from a storage perspective now. You need cyber on both the old style data protection, backup and archive, right? If I'm the cyber criminal, I'm going to understand how things go. This is not like the old gangster movies of the 1940s, right? Where they show up with a machine gun, I'm going to break your leg. It's not how it works. These guys are very sophisticated. So they understand the data flows, server through the network to the storage, storage back through the network out to the server, the application layer sitting there. So they understand that. So what you need to do is have cyber built into your backup and archive strategy, but cyber built into your primary storage as well. So, and then obviously, from a storage perspective, the better automation. So for example, my company has done integration where if a SIEM, a SOAR, or a SOC sees an attack, we start automatically taking snapshots, automatically scanning those snapshots. So in that case, as you send a wider ecosystem, so in this case, gets back to my earlier comment, enterprise storage is now part of a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. And that involves automation, helping reduce the threat window. What are you doing to get a known good copy? Because it's not if you'll be attacked, it's when and how often. And as you know, they're going to get through, right? You read about it every day in all kinds of people having a cyber threat, or I should say an attack that becomes public, let alone all the ones that don't become public. Right. So if you have it on both the backup side and on the primary storage side, versus just looking at it as data protection, oh, I just take backups and that's good enough. And then the idea is you want to be able to recover as fast as you can. As fast as you can. And certain vendors out there, such as us, offer RTO guarantees on how fast we guarantee we will recover that data set. And that's a value whether it be on the backup side or whether it be on the primary storage side.
Right, and it's recovering quickly that matters, but it's also having the ability to know that you've recovered good data, which is where the integration with potentially other tools and scanning through the data, maybe looking at snapshots on a regular basis, using some sort of white room or staging type of environment is going to be critical. So you mentioned automation, you kind of hinted at AI, and from a research study that will be published very soon that we recently completed here at theCUBE Research, I will just hint that when you ask people about what makes up cyber resiliency from a technology and business standpoint. Of course, cyber security tools are going to come in on top, and backup and recovery, but guess what? In the top 5, I will just reveal today, AI makes the top 5 as a key technology for cyber resiliency. So how do you integrate AI, and what do you think the future of AI is from your standpoint in helping with better cyber resiliency and resolving those issues?
So what we've done from our side on the storage front is we have a technology that will detect malware, ransomware. It leverages AI and ML on the storage side. Now obviously the cybersecurity vendors are using AI and ML to help thwart attacks, recover, but we're already using it from our perspective, in our storage products at least. We use AI and ML to scan a snapshot, a volume, databases, whatever you want, and then if you do it as an early warning system, it can report back into a wider cybersecurity ecosystem, as you said, or if you've had an attack, you can take potential candidates, stick it in a fenced forensic environment, scan it, and then that will say, oh, this is not good. Remember, malware and ransomware, is the ultimate spy. If they're really good, no one knows they're the spy. And so they're not pounding their chest like King Kong, screaming and yelling, saying, I'm going to steal your stuff. It's all done surreptitiously. So being able to do the scanning, you can create a snapshot, you could be backing up malware and ransomware and you'd never know it. So the scanning can be a proactive tool, which then would report back in, or B, if they get through, you need to get to a known good copy, so whether that be your snapshots or your backup data sets, and you're going to need to scan them, and we have a tool that uses AI and ML, and it can come back and say, guess what? That snapshot from 2:22 a.m., it's no good. But that snapshot from 2:22 p.m., earlier, if you say that 2:22 a.m. was the most recent snap, and you did one 12 hours earlier, maybe that's a good one. And the AI and ML technology can do that when you're in a recovery mode to get to a known good copy. So 2 different ways to use the AI and ML from a storage perspective.
Right, and it's actually very critical because you don't want to perpetuate the problem. If you recover something that's bad, it may trigger more attack or deeper attack next time around, or continue the problem. So it's very critical. So let's talk about the type of partnerships you have. I know you work with a couple of vendors in the space that really help with understanding what's what and doing this sort of analysis. If you take a step back and think about the new sort of generation of security folks that are now sort of joining in the business, how much do they understand about storage? How much do they understand about really going to the root of where the data is to actually scan? Is there an education need that is required that maybe falls a little bit on the vendor side and on you really to help them understand this?
So we have a joint development partnership with a company called Index Engines. They understand how to do the scanning, how to leverage the AI and ML technology. We did some of the development, they did the bulk of the development, and that solution will do the scanning. You set up what you want to scan. I want these 3 arrays scanned. These 3 are not as important data sets, so I won't want to do those. And so that is exactly what you need. Then you also need integration though, in order to kick those off. So without having them to text somebody, call somebody, pick up the phone, send an email and no one answers, you want to automate that entire process. So that's integration with things like Microsoft Sentinel, IBM QRadar, right, the SIEM and the SOAR packages. Obviously for companies that set up a SOC, they've already got a SOC, so in their case they're monitoring on their own. So you set up an API and that level of integration allows the storage then to go in an automated fashion and help you reduce the threat window. And of course if you have an attack, our software will create a fenced forensic environment, as you talked about already, and then you scan in that fenced forensic environment to see if you've got malware or ransomware. So you got integration that we have done already with Index Engines, then other integration with the data center wide cybersecurity infrastructure, like a SIEM and SOAR or a SOC, so that the storage process now becomes an automated part of the comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. Not a manual process, it's an automated process.
Yeah, so it seems to me that because of the nature of the threat that has fundamentally changed, well, the metrics of recovery or recoverability have changed, the teams are changing, the organization is changing, integrations are happening. What's the next step? Are we going to see maybe a broader set of solutions hitting the market that are more integrated, maybe a storage system that actually has a lot of those components? Are we going to see more of a play for service providers, kind of gluing together some maybe pre-configured stacks. Everybody has a different stack. If we look at the enterprise, which is an area in which you play, well, everybody has like, maybe their top 20, 25 sort of components, and that's really minimizing it here, it's a lot more, but there's probably a top 25. And it's going to vary, it's going to be different permutations depending on who you talk to, and sometimes even in the same organization. So how do you go to market with that? How do you, as an end user, consume all of this information and get to the right solution? And what's the big play? What do you see in the industry?
So a couple things. First of all, we've automated a whole bunch of this process already. So if they've got Sentinel, then they don't have to worry about it. Now, it does need to get configured, and our channel partners can help them, or our own people can help them, okay? Then there obviously are, we have a partner who has a storage practice and a cybersecurity practice. So we've done education with their cybersecurity team, so they know, oh, okay, so their storage is blah, 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 blah. So when they sell a security program, or they sell security engagement, right, a services engagement, they know, okay, well, we're going to bring in Infinidat because Infinidat integrates with this, and Infinidat can do this and that and the other thing. So we've done, in that case, through a reseller, there's consultants, right, that are often used by the enterprises. So as long as they're aware of what the solution is and how you can put it together, then you can put it together easy. And again, we've done a lot of automation, so putting it together is more like, oh, wait, that software can talk to IBM, that software can talk to Splunk. Oh, okay, now we just need to do the integration. And once you've done that integration, which is more about configuring, I want these arrays to do this, and these arrays do that, and these storage systems do that, then it's automated. Think about it as you have to configure it once, and then you're done. Now when you buy more storage, maybe you want to add that new array or those new 2 arrays, but again, it's a one-time configuration in the data center because the levels of integration are there. Now, by the way, if they don't have any SIEM or SOAR software, that's a different issue, because we can't help there, right? Because we're taking our cue from that software. Same thing, if you're doing scanning, let's say every Tuesday and Thursday, and with our scanning software, we call InfiniSafe Cyber Detection, you notice something, if they're not using SIEM, SOAR, or SOC, you can't send it anywhere, so that there's a broader cybersecurity methodology that they say, oh, of course, oh my God, I recognize that. So those are the things that have to happen, and a lot of that is more about having a comprehensive view inside the data center with the IT teams, where the SIEM guys, the SOAR guys, they know, okay, the cyber guys go, oh wait, our storage guys said they're starting to buy storage or backup products with security, and oh, okay, I'll make sure I connect to them. Because once you do the connection, you can automate everything.
Right, I mean very clearly, and this may be the last words here, it's teamwork. It feels like, the team has to come together around this issue, or the teams I should say, whether it's SecOps, whether it's the traditional cybersecurity team and the leadership, IT ops, cloud ops, data center folks. It's a lot of people who have to agree on what the service levels have to be, what the integrations have to be, and what the testing has to be, which of course is going to be critical. So we covered a lot of ground, and thank you so much for your insights. I mean, you know a lot about the business. Clearly we're entering this new phase in the industry where I think cyber resiliency is this new sort of category that is changing a lot of the vendor landscape, a lot of the conversations, and a lot of the teams within IT and cyber teams. So it was great to get your insights. So Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Great, well
today.
Thank you very much. RSA has been a great event for us, and like I said, as you pointed out earlier, you're seeing a lot of storage vendors show up, which you wouldn't have seen that 3-4 years ago. We were here 4 years ago, this is the first time we went. I think there was like a couple other, there's maybe 3, but I counted about 15 this year. Yeah. So that's all new, and the integrations will keep happening, and obviously by using the right consulting firm, the right channel partner, the right systems integration, and inside, it's a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy where storage and backup are included, and if they approach it that way, then there's a lot of integrations that will produce this automated technology so that they're not sitting there going, oh my God, we have to call 27 people to get this thing going. It just starts doing it. But if they don't think in a comprehensive fashion that storage and backup need to be included, that's where the problem will lie.
Well, words of wisdom. Thank you very much, Eric.
Great, thank you very much.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us for our coverage of RSAC 2025 in San Francisco. My name is Christophe Bertrand, Principal Analyst with theCUBE Research, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.